Well, Alabama's had quite a few things happen last couple of days. And on top of that, Jimmy had a kidney stone. So, let's bring on Aaron Suttles.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back into Locked On Bama. Luke Robinson says me. Aaron Suttles, that's him. He's the director of content for Yea Alabama. It says Jimmy Stein down there because I don't know how to change it. If I do know how to change it, I'm going to do it later, but I'm not going to do it right now because we have no time to waste. Jimmy Stein had a kidney stone, and I don't feel so damn good myself. So that's just where we are with things. And Aaron, thanks for being on the show, buddy. I appreciate you.
Yeah, anytime for you guys.
You're a great American. You have been a busy man, busy like a one-armed paper hanger. And there's been a lot going on. I think the best thing I can do for you as director of content for Yea Alabama, you've also worked for various websites and you know all things Alabama in and out. Just do your best right now to summarize the last, 5 days.
Man, it's a great responsibility to try to sum that up because it really felt as if the entire landscape, your entire foundation crumbled last Wednesday. I was like everyone else. I'm sure, Luke, you're pretty plugged in and Jimmy as well, but you started hearing these rumblings last weekend. But, for the last couple of years, you've been hearing them. And it trickled into Monday. And then I got a phone call Tuesday at about 2 o'clock. Saying, hey, we're hearing this. And I was in the building. And I just responded to the person, look, I know why you're calling. Even before I gave him a chance to say hello, I said, I know why you're calling. The man is in his office interviewing candidates right now. I said, and I think I literally said to the person, what kind of psycho interviews candidates if he's leaving that day? And everyone in the building felt the same way, Luke, that, look, we're all hearing this, but this is a man, he's showing no signs of walking away. And then literally 2 hours later, he announced it. And from there, it has just been, we've all been living in fast forward. Greg Byrne conducted a 49-hour coaching search, ends up in Seattle, lands Alabama's 28th head coach, Kalen Deboer. And from there, it's just been filling staff. And fans have been dealing with players entering the portal and players transferring. So it's been coming at us literally 1,000 miles an hour.
On top of that, then, of course, Alabama hires a coach in Kalen Deboer, who I like Kalen Deboer a lot. I like the what he brings to the table. I think it's crazy for anybody to say, hey, this is a surefire, no doubt about it, home run. I think it's also crazy to call him Husky Harsin. I think it's closer to a home run than being Brian Harsin. And I hate to, relay things in an Auburn type way, but that's the one thing that people are saying. And look, this guy is too good, too talented to not be successful on some level. Will he be successful enough for Alabama? That's where the rubber meets the road. And I think it all starts with recruiting, and it also starts with coaches you can keep, et cetera. But what are your initial thoughts on Kalen Deboer as we get into those other things in the segments a little bit later on?
I think it's a lot of wishful thinking from other fan bases. They've been dreaming of this day for a long time, and I think they were hoping that the old Alabama ways that we saw in the 90s and the early 2000s would repeat, where Alabama tripped over themselves and they fumbled and they bumbled and they had NCAA probation issues that kept them from attracting top coaches. I agree with you. Listen, this is, if you want to call him comparing Brian Harsin, do so at your own peril. This is a guy that it was in the national championship game this year at a Power 5 school, not a Group of 5 school. So there's a big difference there. I think recruiting concerns are a big thing because this is the SEC, and there's nothing about a hire in the SEC being a given. Look, LSU wasn't a given when they hired Nick Saban from Michigan State. It's not a given that LSU will work under Brian Kelly. And so none of this is given. But I think I like what you've seen from Kalen Deboer. He's a guy that checks a lot of boxes. He's young. He's energetic. He does it the right way in terms of it's all about his players and building culture. And that's what Nick Saban did better than anybody, is build a culture that a lot of it's going to transfer over, Luke. A lot of those people in the building, their jobs aren't going to change because he's already put the guardrails up, right? I mean, academics is in place, locked in. They finished with the number 3 APR in the country this year. So academics is locked in. Recruiting is sort of locked in in terms of this is your responsibilities, this is the way we do things. And now you just got to get the recruiters. And the biggest thing there is you have to make relationships. And what killed Brian Harsin at Auburn was he didn't work at those relationships in state. You've got to hit the road. And I know us at Yea Alabama, we have a plan to get coach around the state, to meet different high schools and boosters in different areas to let him know where his strengths are in state. And that sort of network that Nick Saban was so good at building, we're going to do the same thing for coach. So I think he understands that recruiting is all about relationships, and you can't build relationships locked in that office in Malmore building.
Look, I mute myself on occasion to try and let Jimmy or my guest talk, and then sometimes I forget to unmute, and I just did it with you. I have kidney stones, but they're in my head. That's the problem. So, yeah, I love how you did the little point at your ear things. Thank you. What's the mood at Yea Alabama? Because I've seen Yea Alabama, and I guess this is you tweeting some of this out. I mean, as director of content, that every state except for 2, Vermont and Delaware.
I think that's right. Yeah.
Vermont and Delaware have contributed to Yea Alabama. That is, and I don't know if that's all time or recently, but that's very positive. But I think that there has been somewhat of a resurgence in terms of contributing to Yea Alabama, which is Alabama's NIL Collective, which is very, very important now. And what's funny is you would think people would be more apt to do it when Nick Saban was there and we were on top of the mountain. But I think it's the reverse, that when you're on top of the mountain, everybody's like, somebody will handle it. But when things look like they're shaky, everybody's like, I got to do my part. So I think that's what's happening here. And so I think that's a positive, right?
Yeah. I mean, how many times, if you've been on a message board, have you read the comment, I stopped worrying about recruiting in 2007, the day Nick Saban was hired? And to our own fault as a fan base, I think we've experienced that. Nick Saban also had some not so positive things to say about NIL. He didn't love it, but he understood it. And so we really struggled to get a message across to the fan base on why this is important, because even without them supporting it, Alabama was always recruiting very well. But to the credit of the Crimson Tide fan base and how much they love the University of Alabama, they have answered the call in the last 3 or 4 days. We have seen membership grow like we've never seen before. And it has rejuvenated me for this job. And it reminded me how much the people in this state love their program and their university. It's been awesome to witness. And it's tough to ask people to give money. I'm not a salesperson, so I don't come from that background. So it's not a natural skill set for me. That's why I just do content. But it's really been heartening to see how many people have and it's sort of been grassroots. But, I've been taking screenshots and retweeting and reposting. People like, you got to join. And it's sort of like coming from within. And just shows me there are a lot of people that love Alabama and a lot of people that care about supporting Coach Kalen Deboer. And he's a big supporter of NIL. He understands what it's going to take, and he's going to need those resources. And that's what we're trying to give him. And we've tried to not rely solely on individual donations. We've tried to create revenue streams. I'm sure you've seen the Alabama vodka, the Roll Tide jerky. So we've tried to go about different ways to revenue streams so we can build a sort of these resources that we know the new coach is going to need. And yeah, but it's been weird. You would think with Nick Saban they would support it, but it's been almost, you said, the exact opposite. They didn't support it as much with Coach Saban, but they are really getting on board with Coach Deboer.
And hopefully Coach Deboer can help reiterate that this is hugely important. Look, I said this last night when I realized Jimmy was under the weather, and I just sort of did a solo thing very quickly because I said, and finally I got your name up there, and finally I spelled it right.
There we go.
I know, the wonders of technology, but Alabama football, Alabama basketball, and Alabama sports in general, maybe Alabama the university for a lot of us, means a lot to us. And we don't live and die by it. We like to say that we don't, but it does affect our psyche. And it is important. I mean, we do attach some sense of our personality to it, whether we want to admit it or not. People like to make fun of it, but I think that's okay. I think everybody's got something like that they're not totally in control of, that they like to attach themselves to. And so I'm fine with it. And so it's got to be successful. So we got to do our part. I mean, we're obviously not going to coach. We're obviously not going to catch passes, shoot free throws. So what we have to do is we have to contribute to this NIL thing. And I want to talk about that in the next segment, because NIL has already played a factor in one player transferring, it seems like. And I want to see what we can do to stymie that in the future. But right now, I'm going to tell everybody about FanDuel. FanDuel is where you want to go to get your fun on. Is that what people say? I don't know. The NFL regular season is done. The playoffs are done, and the Cowboys are done. It's all getting wrapped up right now, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets. My God. Guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's incredible. You can't beat that with a stick. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. And what you do is you take that money, you win that money, you donate it to Yea Alabama. That's what you do. This app is so easy to use that there are many different ways to bet. That's what's so cool. Live same game parlays, find bets in the new Explore tab, make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, the best way to find popular parlays, and much, 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 much more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a chip shot field goal. FanDuel is an official partner of the NFL. All right, Aaron. So mentioned that one player already has transferred from Alabama and landed at Texas, and he made it no bones about it, Isaiah Bond, that this was a business decision, which leads you to believe, number one, I have no qualms in saying this, and I don't mean this in an insult. There's no doubt Texas was tampering with him. There's no doubt. I mean, it feels that way. Now, you don't need to nod or do anything because I don't want to get you in trouble. I'm saying this because it all happened too quickly. I'm also going to say this. That's going to happen everywhere. So nobody fault Isaiah or Texas or anybody. I also don't think people should fault Isaiah, because I also see the great irony and hypocrisy if you do that, when essentially Kalen Deboer sort of did the same thing. He left Washington for more money and a better opportunity at Alabama. Now, you could argue maybe it's more of a lateral move for Isaiah Bond. But if you're Isaiah Bond, what I'm looking at is, number one, it sounds like Texas offered him a good bit of money. It sounds that way. It sounds that way. I think it is very clear to say they have a better pro prospect at quarterback who is better at intermediate passing. And so that also probably came into effect. So what needs to happen for Alabama to stymie this in the future? Because Nick Saban's philosophy seemed like, hey, I want everybody sort of on an even keel, and then the NIL thing sort of, if you're a better player, obviously you'll get better deals, whatever. But what will Alabama do to stymie a lot of losses in the future in terms of this?
We're going to be competitive, and in NIL space is one. And there's certain realities that we have to accept. One, that we do have a great state with a lot of passionate fans, and they're going to contribute, and that is wonderful. But there are other programs in other states that are hungrier, that haven't had some success, and so they're more willing to put that support forward, is the best way to say it, I guess. We're going to be competitive, and we were competitive with Nick Saban, but Nick Saban was never going to be. I was always fond of saying we were never going to set the market. We were never going to be a market leader. You were coming to Alabama because, one, you knew that Alabama could get you in the league, and hopefully that we continue that. And so that is your value can increase there. And then, but we're going to be competitive, and that's our philosophy, and that's why we're trying to sort of build this war chest so we can remain competitive. I still don't think we're ever going to be some of these crazy numbers that you've seen through NIL over the last few years. That'll never be Alabama, in my opinion. I don't think we're going to throw around that kind of money in the NIL space. I don't think that's our. We're sort of we're trying to take the traditional NIL model and use it the way it was written. We're going to give you the opportunities. Like take Link, for example, Luke. They built that themselves. they earned it on the field with Teran and Jalen, and they marketed it then. The fans, it took off. Organic, I'm seeing Lank everywhere now, and they profited off it. That's the way the NIL model is supposed to work. I think we all are smart enough to understand that a little bit's become pay for play. That is not our whole model, and that's not the way we're going to be. And so we are trying to, help kind of create young entrepreneurs and market them if they have ideas. We're trying to partner them with sponsors, but we're never going to be a market leader. You're never going to see a $8 million deal for a player at Alabama. It's just not going to be reality.
I'm so glad you brought up Milroe and Teran Arnold. A couple of things. First of all, you will never, ever, ever meet two better kids and ambassadors for the University of Alabama. They are fantastic human beings. They're also just happen to be fantastic football players. They also happen to be very, very smart. And when you say this is the way they're supposed to act, I happen to know a little bit about their situation, a little bit, that they had a deal with somebody, and it was pretty much on the cheap on the front end. But as this guy told me, hey, look, if they both blossom and this turns out, this is going to be fantastic for me and for them because I'm going to help them even more. And that's what it did. Now, if it hadn't worked out, it was sort of no harm, no foul because it relatively speaking, it wasn't a ton of money. Yeah. But because it did work out and because it was organic, that is the way it should happen. Now, and that also leads me to believe that on the back end, these guys are going to profit even more because they learn so much from that. Whereas somebody who takes the big payday right now, my guess is that could hurt them on the back end because they really won't know the struggle of, and they really won't know the work that it takes to keep that going. Do you understand? It's the difference between creating a $5 million company and being handed a $5 million company. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. If you get all that money up front, where's your motivation to keep working to be better as a player? I've got it. And I want to tell you a story about Teran Arnold. He is my poster boy for NIL. I was fortunate to get to know him a lot this year. Early on, when he has a contract with us at Yea Alabama, and we're presenting him deals. He never said no to an opportunity. And when he said yes to an opportunity, he didn't show up begrudgingly, as if we are trading upon his time. He did so with an excellent attitude. Now, look, Teran's blessed with an unbelievable personality. Not all of us have that. But his attitude and his willingness to do whatever he could to build his brand. I want you to remember where he was at the start of the season. There were fans saying, I don't know if I want Teran Arnold as a starter on this team. He's a liability. To by the end of the season, you're really hoping he comes back. And you're in love with the kid because he took his opportunity, he built his brand, and he grew it. And that's the way NIL is supposed to work. So every time I talk to a student athlete going forward and I ask him to do something for us at Yea Alabama, I'm going to point to Teran and say, look, I want you to look at Teran Arnold. And I want to look at where his value started at the beginning of 2023 and look at where it ended. Now, some of that is you got to back it up on the field. There's no doubt about that. But some of it is the attitude and the effort that you put forward, how important you make people feel. I know he had a deal with Craneworks that we helped set up. And the people at Craneworks loved him. And we got it set up. He became very close with that company. And because he was a good kid, and because when he talked to you, you felt like he wasn't just doing you a favor, like he was engaged in the conversation. So I'm going to point to every student athlete in the future and say, look, you handle your business like Teran Arnold, and your growth can go from here to here in terms of your NIL value. It's up to you.
All right, so Craneworks was the company I was talking about. I wasn't going to mention them because I didn't know what I could mention, but I'm glad you brought it up, and I want to tell you one quick story. I happened to go to a Craneworks party. I've already told this story on the podcast, so if you've heard it, you can fast forward if you want to. But I got to go a little early because I know some folks there, and Teran was there. And in the background on a TV in an office, it was a very intimate setting at that time. There were only like 4 or 5 of us in there. The SEC championship game, which had just happened, was on the screen. And it was the very early in the game. And Teran's in there. He's signing some autographs, just chopping it up with us. He stopped. He says, y'all hold on a second. I want to tell you all about this play. This is unprompted. Nobody said anything about it. Nobody even mentioned the game was on. He said, I want to tell y'all what happened on this play. And he broke it down. And he said, this guy busted his assignment. He's not supposed to take the eye candy, but he did, and it ended up being a 9-yard gain. And I thought, my God, he remembers a play from the first quarter that is seemingly irrelevant. But he knew everything about it. He was just a good kid. Like I said, it wasn't like somebody said, Teran, where you break this down, and he went, oh, God. Okay,
Right.
no. He said, I want to show you this. Like, I want to share what I know with you.
Yeah. And look, this is what NIL can be. And this is what I'm so excited about for our members at Yea Alabama. We take the helmet off the player and there are less barriers to the player now. We have an interview we do once a week. We call it half-hour huddle, where we take our members' questions. You get to ask the players questions.
Ooh.
So long, fans have been treated, and rightfully so from an athletic department standpoint. They've been kept at arm's length because they're worried about rogue boosters and getting in NCAA trouble. That's not a case anymore. You can get to know the players. And when you got a player like Teran, you want your fan base to get to know him. You want people to get to know kids like Deontay Lawson. I mean, there are some look, and you've been around this program. There are some unbelievable young men, and they're great football players, and that's why we all love them. And they're at Alabama, but they're great kids. And when you get to meet them, you get to care about them more, and then you become invested in. I want to see this person succeed, and I want to know that my money is going to help support them. That's what it's about, and I think that's one of the benefits of NIL is creating these opportunities, these experiences for our fans to get to know our players like never before.
All right, got to ask you about the new coaches and really just the new outlook, and also got to ask you about some specific recruits. If you can talk about them, we'll do that when we come back. Right now, though, I want to tell you about the Jase case. I know sometimes a lot of us, we come to sports to escape from some of the craziness and the reality of life. But can we talk for a minute just about preparing for life? According to the FDA, pharmacies are running out of antibiotics like amoxicillin right in the middle of the worst flu season in over a decade. That's very scary stuff. I can't imagine a more helpless feeling than if, my daughter CeeLo or my son Truett or my son Walker or my daughter Mary Sanders, I got a lot of kids, or one of my other kids that I may not even know about, got sick while a supply chain issue kept them from the life-saving medication they needed. Thankfully, we'll be okay because I do have a Jase case through Jase Medical. The Jase case is a pack of 5 different antibiotics to treat a long list of bacterial illnesses, including UTIs, respiratory infections, sinusitis, skin infections, among others. This stuff could happen to any of us at any time. Visit jasemedical.com and complete your physician encounter. It will be reviewed by a board-certified physician, and your medications will be dispensed by a licensed pharmacy at a fraction of the regular cost. It's never been more important to be prepared than today. Go to jasemedical.com and use code LOCKEDON to get $20 off your order at jasemedical.com. Go there ASAP. So coaching-wise, a lot of rumors still out there. Obviously, Ryan Grubb is going to come in, be the offensive coordinator. It looks like that's wonderful. This is a guy that likes to sling the ball around. So is Kalen Deboer, by the way. He likes to sling the ball around. Michael Penix, you could make the argument, I think, was the best quarterback in the country this year. I mean, I'm a Jaden Daniels guy myself, but I liked watching Michael Penix. He had some Tua Tagovailoa vibes. And so I think that's positive for quarterbacks. Whether it'll be positive for Jalen Milroe, I don't know. We'll see about that, and that's a question for another day. But coaching updates besides the ones that we know about, obviously Grubb and Gillespie's going to be staying and things like that. I think everybody's asking about the defensive coordinator position. Can you give us the latest on that?
I know Alabama's trying very hard to keep Travarius Robinson. Obviously, he left, took a co-defensive coordinator role at Georgia. And I think a lot of that was he wanted some assurances that he was going to be the defensive coordinator. And look, Kalen Deboer is like, look, I need a minute. You're putting this on me right now. And when he couldn't get that, I think he made the decision to go to Athens because he had a standing offer from Kirby and to go be the safeties coach. But if he wants to be a defensive coordinator, and there are some reports out there this morning that Alabama is prepared to make him the defensive coordinator. Does he really want to be the co-defensive coordinator with Georgia with Glenn Schumann? And if he's not going to call the defense at Georgia, and you can call the defense at Alabama, you get to stay with personnel that you already know. Your family's already settled here in Tuscaloosa. There's not a move you have to worry about. You would think that it's causing him having to make a real decision. Now, I know he's already announced at Georgia, but what was it last year? Austin Armstrong was in the building in Alabama for about a week before Florida grabbed him. So some of these things take a little time. I know the administration in Alabama is working very diligently and very hard to get Travaris Robinson back. We'll see if that has any legs or not. And if it's not him, then Kalen's going to be put to the test because keeping Freddie Roach I think was huge. Just for in-state, Freddie played in the state, represent 256 where I'm from. He coached in this state. He knows the coaches in this state, so he can be really, really big in helping Coach Deboer and his new staff make some inroads in-state. Keeping Robert Gillespie. There's a lot of talent in that running back room. Hopefully, keeping those all the guys all together. But where they give if Coach Robinson doesn't choose to come back, we'll have to see. We'll see if you make a hire. I'm sure you were aware that Coach was talking to DJ Durkin before he retired. Could it be a guy like DJ Durkin who knows the South a little bit? His Nick Saban's kicked the tire on hiring him before. Was actually probably going to hire him this go around before he retired. Maybe it's DJ Durkin. We'll have to just wait and see how this plays out.
Really would love Robinson to come back. I think that obviously would help with the likes of one Ryan Williams, who I've said all along for the last 15, 16 years. I've been a member of the HSA radio network. I've called a lot of Alabama, Mississippi All-Star games and kickoff classics and state championship games. And there have been two players that I've said are no-brainer, 100% can't miss. One of them was Chris Jones from Ole Miss. Not Ole Miss, Mississippi, who ended up at Mississippi State. And another one was Ryan Williams. I think Ryan Williams is unbelievable. And I would certainly love for Robinson to come to Alabama, and I think that would help. And I don't think it's a necessity for Robinson to be at Alabama for Ryan Williams to end up at Alabama, but I think it helps a ton, right?
I think it helps a ton, and I think it also helps, some of this attrition we're seeing on the current roster. We've already seen a couple DBs leave. It would be a shame if a guy like Caleb Downs got in the portal. Just another one of these can't miss guys. Caleb Downs can't miss. Freshman All-American, SEC Freshman of the Year. We're going to do everything at Yea Alabama that we can to up his opportunities and so he can and earn on his name, image, and likeness. But keeping Coach Robinson there would be huge in that regard. And I'm with you. I got to be careful because I'm with Yea Alabama how I talk about recruits, but just as a pure fan watching the game, Ryan Williams is electric, and it is fun to watch him play football, and it would be awfully fun to see him in crimson and white on Saturdays in Bryant-Denny Stadium.
Yeah, and I know we'll do everything that we can as fans. We'll do everything we can at Locked On Bama. I know you'll do everything. So since you do need to do everything you can to keep him, why don't you tell everybody how they can help and contribute to Yea Alabama?
Well, first, I just want to thank everybody for the tremendous support we've seen over the last week. The way that you guys have answered the call, really in a sort of homegrown grassroots viral effort it's just been, as an Alabama guy myself, an Alabama alum, it's been awesome to see this fan base come together. And I understand that giving depends on your financial situation. So we have memberships as low as $18 a month, and I know some $18 a month is not doable, and I completely understand. For those who can, it's a Netflix subscription a month. And your money, 100% of it, goes to NIL. It does not go to my salary. It doesn't go to paper clips or toner cartridges. It goes to the players and the athletes at the University of Alabama. So go to yea-alabama.com/fans. You can peruse all the different options. We are working on individual contributions in case you don't want to make a commitment. Your financial situation is such that you don't want to commit to a monthly total. And we're working with our lawyers to see their interpretation of NIL rules, how we do that without a deliverable. That's what we call them, Luke, deliverable. When you're signing up for a membership, we're giving you something in return, access, experiences. Those are what we call deliverables. So we're working on a one-time only option if you choose to support that way. But we're doing everything we can. We have beat our heads against the wall to try to raise money for the student athletes at the University of Alabama. We're going to continue because we all love the program. You guys love the program. And again, bottom of my heart, thank you guys for answering the call this past week.
You got a pretty cool pullover there. Now, if you buy something like that from Yea Alabama, that also goes into the kitty?
Absolutely. Yeah, we have a merchandise shop, which you don't need to be a member to access. Just go to yea-alabama.com. You can go to the shop. We've got polos. We've got quarter zips. We've got hoodies, pullovers. So, yeah, just anything. And it's a cool logo. I mean, it really is. You can see it there. This camera.
I think you're looking the wrong. There you go.
There we go. But we designed it. It's unique. If you want to stand out on game days with just something different, and it's quality stuff. I mean, this is Holderness and Bourne. If you know anything about their brand, It's very on par with Peter Millar, if you're familiar with Peter Millar. Very comfortable, very soft, and it's quality stuff.
Awesome, man. Aaron, thank you so much for being with us. Let's hope for the best coming up. Don't know what's going to happen with Travarius Robinson. Don't know what's going to happen with Ryan Williams. Don't know what's going to happen with a lot of things. But I got to say, I'm nervous, but I'm also very excited about the future.
I think it's an exciting time. I think we've so got used to Coach Saban. We took him not for granted, but we sort of got entrenched with Coach Saban for so long that something new is exciting. And along with that is a coach that has a different way of doing things. Freshmen might speak to the media now. We might hear from our assistant coaches. This might be a coach that's more accessible than Coach Saban. Like I said, we're going to get him around the state. We're going to get him in front of you guys as much as we can because we know how important that is to you guys and for the state of Alabama and for Coach Deboer.
All right, buddy. Aaron, thank you so much for joining us today. You're the absolute best. We'll have you on again soon. Y'all go contribute to Yea Alabama, and let's get this thing rolling, no pun intended. Until then, roll tide, everybody.